Hello everyone, this is Matthew from Burial Path, and let's talk guitar tone. Alrighty, let's start here. What I got open is Axe Edit, and what I use for all the recording, at least what we do for recording, is we use an Axe Fix 2. So this is their editor program, simple layout. Let's just start from the left to the right. Now this one we don't have to worry about. When I used to do the signal into the Axe Fix and then split it at the Axe Fix for the process and DI, I would have to throw this effects loop on there to make it work. So I would put my guitar into the input, it would split it out, so output 1 would be process, output 2 would be dry. But now we're using the, what is it called, Rupert Neve Designs active DI box, so I really could just get rid of this. The first thing we have in our effects block for our rhythm tone, our jaunt tone, is gate. Now when you open up the gate on this one, this is completely factory settings. Everything you see here, I haven't adjusted any of this, I just leave it the same. Next, what I don't have activated right now is use an advanced whammy as a pitch shifter. That's for a lot of times if, say I'm on a 6th string, I'm in drop D, and say I want to do a song and it happens to be in drop C. Just drop it down real quick. It's such a small adjustment that you don't really hear artifacts. I don't really feel any latency. Now we're moving on to the drive. The drive we use is a T808 mod, so it's supposed to emulate that Ibanez 808. And I didn't really touch much of the settings here except for the tone. I did bump up. I think it starts closer around here or so, but we bumped that up to 9. And then the drive, I think the drive starts up significantly higher, but we pull that down quite a bit. We don't actually want a lot of gain for ours. It'll get too noisy. The rest of these, you can make small adjustments. I didn't really touch any of these. I liked how it sounded as it was coming through. And then here's the other tab. So I'll just go back to this one, leave this up here for a little bit, pause, jot down your notes. Same over here, you can pause, jot down your notes. Moving on to the amp, we use a DOS metal amp. That's one of the factory amps with that comes with the Axe Effects. And this one, input drive, we dropped down a little bit. The bass, we did put that all the way up because we like the low end and the guitars for the live music. And the mid definitely came down because we're getting really boomy tones out of it. The treble, we left just a little bit past the middle just so we can get some of that higher end to make it sound like it has more air to it. Make it some breath to it, not so dark and muddied. The rest of this, though, didn't really touch much. And that goes for the rest of these. All these others pages I want to show you, we didn't touch very much at all. As you can see here, this amp does have an EQ in it, but we waited back here to put the EQ so we could EQ all these items here. So this is all zeroed out. Preamp, didn't touch any of that. Power amp, same. Power supply. Speaker drive, and dynamics. Again, if this is for you tone gods out there, you can really dive deep on some of these blocks, but I'm just a simple guy. Once I hear it sounds good for me, I'm keeping it. Next in the next effect is this tone match. Now I can't remember exactly who I got this from, but supposedly this was supposed to be actually Justin from After the Burial tone match of his rig. So we will, I think actually we already have this patch on Axe Exchange. So you can find Burial Path Rhythm, I believe we title it as, and you can download it and have all this, get that tone match. Because everything else you can do yourself, but that tone match, that's the icing on the cake. Moving over to the EQ. As you see, the higher on this part, we left at 0. Didn't really adjust. 500 came up a little bit. We wanted some punch. I know there's sometimes it's between these two, but I think personally, at least for my gear and what my ears are hearing, I didn't do the 250 because to me that kind of sounds more boxy. Some of my other older equipment with different settings, I know I've raised the 250 and dropped the 500 because I thought it sounded better. So just what sounds good to you. And then of course the low end. Obviously maybe it does enough or something in the live setting, but really our ears probably can't hear that too well. But the 125 just adds that kind of low rumble so you can really feel it in your chest live. And honestly, I love how it sounds in recordings too. But again, not very much, no major adjustments on EQ. Here is our parametric EQ. As you can see, this one I didn't change. This came as is. Band 2. Band 3. We had this little trim pan in there. Sometimes we use it for little interludes or for intros for songs, but again, mostly just like the pitch, that one stays blanked out. And we finished the whole thing up with another gate. Again, this one is left factory settings. Now, when we've done really staccato-y, genty parts in songs, I have cranked this threshold all the way down to almost 30, 32 to make it super tight. And in that case, for that scene, it would only be for those genty rhythm parts because it loses so much sustain that even holding out a chord kind of starts sounding kind of crappy in my opinion. But for that really quick having those tight gates really makes it sound tighter. So, and especially if you're doing recording, there's just less editing to do, in my opinion. So that's our rhythm patch. Now let's move to our lead patch. It's fairly similar setup. Start with the gate. Now this one, the only thing we did change, you can see here, we moved the threshold, like basically getting rid of the threshold. We wanted just enough of a gate that you wouldn't hear like that sound when you weren't playing, but we really had to raise the threshold because when we were doing quick runs or sustained notes, you could really start hearing that gate kick in too early and just starts diminishing the tone quality and how long we could let it ring out. Next, the threshold, I believe, threshold and ratio, I believe were the only things we slightly altered. We raised the threshold for the compressor, and the ratio we moved it almost just shy of a 5:1 versus a 4:1. And that's a studio comp one for this. There's the good old pitch shift again. For the drive, back to the T808 mod. This one, tone maxed out, and the drive, last time we were around 2.63 on our rhythm. This one we bumped up to the 4.07 form. Again, I want to say we did that when we were just messing around in the DAW, that we just liked how it sounded in the sustain, or at least the tone with the sustain with the drive being a little bit higher. But typically we do all our patches, we try to keep somewhat lower. Now for our amps, the first one is a Friedman HBE V2. That comes with the Axe-Fx 2. This one I do not believe I touched at all. I think this was all factory settings. We'll go through the sheets again. Zero it out. No touch. No touch. No touch. No touch. No touch. No touch. And this one's easy. Interesting. We split it between two amps. The second amp is an Engel Severe 1. Again, another factory amp through Axe-Fx. And again, I didn't touch much on these. With these two amps, I really liked how they sounded just out the go. And maybe it's just I'm a simple guy for tones. But having one amp, why we decided to split the signal to go through both amps and then come back to a single audio signal, was this one added kind of, in my opinion, how I was hearing it, added that lower end kind of crunch rumble to where it didn't feel really tinny as a higher tone for leads. And then this Angle Severe, this one added more of that high-end glisten, a gauge reference, high-end glisten for the soaring leads, or just what you typically would hear in leads. So that's why we ended up with two of these. This one just to help with that lower end, to give it a little bit more chonkiness. Moving into the cab, Studio Ultra Res is the type we had, and then we used two different cabs. The 2x12 Boutique RW and the 4x12 Recto SM57, excuse me. These are both all factory as well. I know on the back here on the rhythm one, before we got the tone match, we did use a cab block, and we were using the Misha Mansour IR, his IRs for it. Maybe I have to look into that again. So those are the settings. If I did alter anything on this, it was negligible. I would say that. You might as well just say this is factory settings. There we go. Moving on. Back to the EQ. Now this one, you can see slight bump up in the 4 and 8K range. Here, you see where I thought it sounded better with the 250 versus the 500. Didn't sound as boxy, but gave us a little bit more low end. And of course, really bumped up on the 63. Not 100% sure if it's a real thing change I'm hearing, but I'd like to think it sounded better. For our delay, we're using a digital mono, and we are going quarter beat tempo, 500 milliseconds. The rest of this didn't touch. Same with these, didn't touch any of these. And then our reverb, using the studio type. And this one I definitely did not touch anything. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the patches or the effects blocks that come factory with Axe-Fx, I already dig already. They sound really good to me, and I'm really happy that I didn't have to mess with much. I might get some hate from the tone gods, but I really like how it sounds as is. So there we go. That is my presets for our lead and for our rhythm for Burial Path. This is Matthew from Burial Path. Thank you for watching.